Alrighty. Okay. All right. Okay. So, let me ask you this. Did you get a chance to read the article I sent to you or no?
I read the first part of it. I'm still going through it, but what it seems like it seems like it's blending that technology that they can see that you can actually see that there's more to that there's certain stimuli that is dealing with the that can't be explained by modern science. In other words, but rather is detecting that there is a soul.
Yep. Well, and I think one of the sending a message. Okay. All right. So yeah. But the thing is like this. The reason why I sent the article is because this is the battle. This is the battle right here. Is of that dynamic of those two different philosophies, right? The philosophy of the Greek Roman philosophy, which is we don't have a soul, where it's not something that it's a some religious idea that religious people came up with, and the real reality is that we're just kind of like these external creatures that live and eat and pursue different conquests, and some are greater than others according to Darwin, right? And that's their understanding, and what you see is reality. Right? What you see is reality. What you see was because that's really the issue. The issue is what I'm looking at, is that fully reality, or is it only a partial bit of reality? That is the difference between one world and another. The world that we live in today believes completely that right, that they are the world that we live in today believes that what you see is it. The world that we come from, the world of Israel, the world of Judaism, we say no. What you see is only a limited amount. That's the main concept, right? And understanding that is everything. Like those are because you could be religious, you could follow Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, or any other type of faith, and if you see the world as what you see is, that's it. You guys are all in you guys are all in the same religion. You may have different languages, you may have different ways of saying it, but the bottom line is you guys are in the same religion, and you're in the religion of what I see is totality. And you are against the people that say what I see is only a mishu, is only a residue. And there's a whole bigger world around everything that I physically see, leading all the way back to the endless world. So that's the line in the sand. A lot of people don't realize that, right? Because you could look at religion, you'd be, oh man, this person's devoted. No, but they still believe in the illusionary reality. You're either in the illusionary world or you're in the real reality. The real reality is connected to energies that far extend past that. And even you have scientists that are saying that. But I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like even when we talk about imperial, what they call empirical evidence, right? That's what the basis that they're saying. Like, oh well, the reason why science doesn't like the soul or doesn't connect to soul because they don't have it. I'm not saying. Am I saying right? Empirical evidence. Anyways, the point is just saying that that's the idea, right? And and from that perspective, that's what we're dealing with, right? That's what we're dealing with right now is those two realities because you could be Jewish, Christian, like I said, any religion. If you see the world that way, you're not in the Torah. You're in something else. All right. The Torah starts with the heavens, not the earth, the heavens, something you can't see. And then the earth comes, right? And so it's like, that's this is how Shem created the building blocks of reality. the unseen and the seen, right? If you want to say it that way, right? And so that dynamic is huge. Yeah. It's a really big concept of that. So that's one point, right? Second point is, I was talking to a guy earlier today, very, important guy, Jewish guy, African American guy. And, I was talking to him, because there's so many African Americans that are reaching out and wanting to connect and wanting to see our perspective on things and all those type of things. And I told him, I said, well, the thing is, why haven't movements been as successful as we wanted them to in the African American community, right? Why haven't they been successful? Well, let's think about it. Right? We're in an era of trauma. Everyone's talking about trauma, this, blah, blah, blah. So let's think about the so-called African American. And I use so-called because it's just such a like weird idea. But the point is just saying the black person, African American, the person from chattel slavery. Let's just think about their experiences before coming to America. Now we don't have so much information. We have to kind of like rely on the Ebos and the people that were there, which I think is a pretty good way to do that. And it was a very difficult reality that they lived in. It was very torturous, right? They were subjugated. And if we go back further, this is the Ebos. This is what they say, right? Right? Rabbi Eliezer de Mota went out there and traced their traditions to the Second Temple. So that's what they were doing, right? So we're related to a lot of those are the people who put in the transatlantic slave trade on the in Ghana and on the ports of Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's who they were. So if you go even back even further, the fact that we're talking about the base of Mikdash for these people, right? And the base of Mikdash was destroyed by the Romans, and Jews went all over. Jews went in Africa, Jews went in the Middle East, Jews went all over wherever they had connections. People connected and just say, "Hey, we're going here." I don't know why. We'll see what happens. Next thing generations later, they're Iraqi, they're Persian, they're whatever, right? And so some of them, went into they went into they went into Africa, right? And so like people are uncomfortable with some people are uncomfortable. I don't know what it is, man. It's the weirdest thing. It's like every other group, but when it comes to African Americans, they just freak out. They're just like, "Whoa, no, 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 no." But like, doesn't it make the most sense? Anyways, the point is just saying. So you go back to Africa, go back to so you're talking about a lot of trauma, right? And so if you're going to create a movement in the United States, right, which is not limited, it's not a black movement, just a movement of spirituality. It starts on the basis of being able to have 50 men in the same room and being able to get them to a point where they love each other unconditionally, right? Like that's the reality. Like if you're gonna make changes in the world, because it's like you could be a charismatic leader and be like, yeah, I learned this stuff and I came to Israel and I got all it, I got knowledge. Follow me, right? That's whack. That's whack. We already seen that. We already seen that guy, right? So the reality is like how do we create things that last where people, regardless of what they want to do, right? They may want to follow seven B'nai Noach. Some people may want to keep 613, regardless. But the point is just saying there could be a process of redemption where people can rediscover who they are, right? Because it's not just black people, it's white people. If you white and you black, you're in the same condition, right? Just like the same people. There's two realities. There's people who say what I see is totality, and there's people who say what I see is only a fragment, right? So because the point is just saying that it's a very important idea, right, to think about in terms of like, well, if you're going to deal with the African American situation, I'm just using that as one example. There's many examples. You have to deal with that trauma. You have to deal with like what it is to be a person in a place of subjugation, right? Like, I mean, it's a different type of subjugation. It's like we got 24 hours of content being thrown at us depicting the lowest moral and ethical behaviors. 24 hours of it. It's not just by us, it's all of society, right? In fact, our stuff, when you really think about it, our stuff is actually lighter than a lot of other stuff because the other stuff they be going into transgender. They have that's not really such a thing in our community. You know what I mean? We got other issues. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have like some of these like really intense, dark, like bestiality, incest. You know what I mean? Like this stuff's like we don't even mess with that type of stuff. So it's like we have our drama, but they're doing the same thing to everyone else. You know what I'm saying? And so dealing with one slice of the cake, right? Which is what we're talking about in terms of the African American community. It's like you think about it and it's like, hey, the mechanism that we're underneath is an extremely traumatic, toxic environment. America's extremely toxic environment for African Americans is really bad. Until you step out of it, you don't realize it. Like they're just running commercials on black killing each other like all day. In its culture, in its fashion, in its movies, in its television, and it's this is a real thing, and this has been going on for decades. Us being made into sexual, black men are sexual, and we're all about the physicality and this and this whole dynamic. It's like, come on, bro. Like I see some of these guys, coming in. I don't know what people's stories are in Jerusalem, man. It's a lot of weird people here, but you see some of the brothers out here and they're just like so sexual. They got earrings and this and this whole thing. And it's just like, and that's a program, right? Like seeing ourselves as sexual objects and sexualizing ourselves and in romance and this or just these frivolous concepts that, we just throw around and, this type of thing. And it's just like, it's a crazy thing. And so, anyways, so the point is just saying that, you know, you look at that idea, and then you just look at society in general, and you say like, you look at it, and you're just like, you say, how do you like reassess who you are, right? Because if you've been programmed to see yourself in this way, how is it that you can love your brother? How can you love your neighbor? How can you love your fellow man? Like what is your basis of what love is? Have we learned love and unity from whose perspective? Like universities? What is unity? What is it for people to be unified together? What does that mean? Like we're marching? Because all the movements that I've seen from our community are very like militaristic, right? It's not about emotion. It's not about feeling. It's not about inquiry or spiritual expression. It was about, hey, here's a top-down structure, and these people are, it's like an army, right? The Nation of Islam, I mean, to a degree, I mean, they went really far with it, but like Marcus Garvey, all these guys, they were very militaristically, because the pain that we've been carrying has not been addressed. You know what I'm saying? Like the pain of slavery, the pain of discrimination, the pain of people telling we're less than. When they say that we're black, they're saying we're less than white. That's what it means. Period. No matter how much we like want to co-sign it and staple it and these types of things. Hold on one second. No matter how we want to staple it, it's cool. No matter how much we want to staple it, that I mean that's what it is, right? And so now, if you're going to teach people about God, those things have to be addressed in the forefront, because the relationship with God is the relationship with your fellow man. They're not like separate concepts. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't love your fellow man, how are you going to have a relationship with God? God created him. God created her. God created this. How do you have a relationship with nature? Right. So all these things have to be dealt with, which are not negative, which are not negative. I mean, I was just talking to, Zakaria about it earlier. I was like, when you look at like what Chabad did, right? You look at breast of all these different movements that existed. It's like they were dealing with people after massive trauma, massive wars, destructions, this, death, this, tear, the whole thing. And these spiritual ideas revitalized people and brought them back to the Torah. That's why when you hear about the Lubavitch Rebbe, you hear about, the Chabad movement, the Alter Rebbe, you hear about Bresla, Rabbi Nachman. These people are giants. They revitalized the dead. What the non-Jews did to Jews in different times in history are different, but we can't imagine. It's no different than what we saw with African Americans. Psychological, this, imagery, the whole thing, subjugation, the whole logic, right? So the point is saying, so if we're going to take an approach on rebuilding people, we have to say, like, if I come to you, I could gas people up and say, hey, well, we're the chosen people, we're the real ones, everyone else is this, and they took this, and we need to get back to it, and blah blah. And for people who've dealt with what we dealt with, that feels good. It makes a lot of sense because it just makes sense and it feels good. But that's not the destination, right? Because all that allows me to do is be a follower and feed your ego, and you could give me some money, and this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You got 100 followers, 1,000 followers. You tell them every week how great they are and how bad the white people are. I mean, you could do that, but you're not going to be remembered. The people who are going to be remembered are the ones who elevate the conversation. And so that's what we're doing. We're saying, like, hey, we're about the Neshama, we're about the Temple Mount, we're about Eretz Israel, um, we're about expansion. We're about what is our potential, what is my contribution to society, who am I really? I know what the society has told me who I am. The society told me bad stuff about me. They spoke Lashon Hara about me. They came in and said, you black, man, you got less rights. Wait, God determines my rights. God determines my situation. Why are you taking that away from me? So, anyways, so that's where we're at. We're in this idea of new beginnings. This is Parsha Noah, right? Noah comes out of the Teva, and he comes out of the Teva. He comes out to seeing a new world, and he has a new philosophical approach, right? And and he goes through processes. He goes through a lot of pain. He goes through this, the whole thing. But the point is saying that the world that we experience today is a byproduct of what happened after the Mabul, after the flood of Noah. The world that we see today is a byproduct of that. So there's a lot of great things, and there's still a lot of challenges. So anyway, so that's kind of like the talk. It's just to like think about it, like this is the real reality. Like this, it's not just like Bible verses. You have to deal with the condition of the people. Where's their pain at? Where's they struggling? Why it doesn't? You know how many African Americans I met in Judaism that they're when they get challenged, they have the same responses as people from the communities they claim to be separate from because now they're Jewish. You know what I'm saying? Same responses, right? So what is that dynamic, and how do we deal with that? How do you create a community that's not based around hierarchical structures? How do you create a community around love, right? How do you create a community around compassion? How do you create a community around empathy? How do you create a community about patience? How do you create that, right? And so this is the spiritual work we have to do on ourselves. And then if we do that work on ourselves, as we do that work on ourselves, then we'll be able to open gates for other people. You know what I mean? Because we can't just talk something and not be it, right? Because it's the energy that transfers, right? And and the energy that transfers, is where that's light, that's energy, right? That's kedusha. So we have to be those people, right? If we want to bring, I was telling Sakari, I said, bro, I said we got to bring the hood to the Temple Mount. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we got to do, bruh. We got to take the hood to the Temple Mount Because once we go in that direction, all of society is going to go in that direction, right? That's why God created hip hop. God created hip hop so we could see how much power we have because we came in a world that told us how ugly we were and how insignificant we were and all these different things. So he created hip hop to allow us to see the impact. So now that we see the impact, now what are we going to do with it? Sell products that we don't even own? Or are we going to bring them? Are we going to bring people to something that they don't realize, or I mean, something that you can't purchase, which is God, right? And so that's the idea, right? The idea is bringing the hood to the Temple Mount, bringing society to Temple Mount, the focus of the Temple Mount, right? What do I mean by the Temple Mount? We're saying the dynamic of saying that it's only me and Hashem. There's no intermediaries. When you see me laying on the ground doing hashtagavaya, prostration, that's exactly what the Kohanim did. Exactly. Me and Hashem. That's it. There's no middleman. There's no nation state. There's no ethnicity. There's no rabbi. There's no priest. There's no king. There's no leader. There's no monk. Nobody. Nobody. No salary. No amount of money. Money. What does that mean? That's a concept. That's a concept. You go to you feel the light of the creator on the Temple Mount is such that's the Shekhinah's there. That's not like we said we built it. No, the Shekhinah was there before there was a temple. The Shekhinah was there before there was Abraham, right? The Shekhinah was there since the beginning of creation. Adam was created there. The Temple Mount is where Adam was created. God laid Adam down there on the Temple Mount. There. Okay, that's the level we're talking about. All the books we read, the libraries, Library of Commerce, all their books means nothing. Means nothing. It's all like what it's all made up. It has nothing to do with God's will. It's just frivolous conversations about nothing that leads nowhere. And people spend their whole life in that reality. So anyway, so that point. So I want to just end the conversation because this is all just it's just a Shabbos motivation. You know what I'm saying? Shabbos motivation, thinking big, thinking bigger than we could ever imagine, asking Hashem to take us to levels we can't even imagine. All things, come from the Creator. And so anyway, so I wake up this morning. Or was it last night? Maybe it was last night. So let me see if I could play it. Hold on. Let me see if I could play it. I want to play this clip. It's let's get this thing on. All right, so this clip is hold on, that's not what I'm looking for. I put it on Instagram. Hold on. Okay. All right, wait, hold on. Hold on.
Been in on a lot of those meetings with him. Has, to your knowledge, has the subject of rebuilding the Holy Temple in Jerusalem come up?
It has not. No, it has
You don't
not.
know what his thoughts on that would be.
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The ones that's meant.
Looking at these renderings, and it kind of got me thinking, he's likely going to go down as the greatest builder of this era, and you've been in on a lot of those meetings with him. Has, to your knowledge,
Sorry about that.
looking at these renderings, and it kind of got me thinking, he's likely going to go down as the greatest builder of this era, and you've been in on a lot of those meetings with him. Has, to your knowledge, has the subject
What is this called?
looking at these renderings, and it kind of got me thinking, he's likely going to go down as the greatest builder of this era, and you've been in on a lot of those meetings with him. Has, to your knowledge, has the subject of rebuilding the Holy Temple in Jerusalem come up?
It has not. No, it has
You don't
not.
know what his thoughts on that would be.
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The ones.
All right, it's a brief point. Hold on, I'm stop sharing. All right, it's a brief point, and so the thing is just saying like it's just something that just came up. I think it was I forgot to look at the time. I think it was yesterday. It was a White House briefing, and that was the conversation, right? And And it was just like I was just like into it, and I thought about it, it's like, oh yeah, I know this guy, like, whatever. So we met like this guy, his name's like Jake Turk, something like this great guy. We met, he was writing for some magazine, some Jewish man, I don't know, and he became a White House correspondent. I don't even know how we connected, but we connected like several years ago back in LA when I was already in Israel, and then I came back to LA just for the holidays. I think it was Pesach or something like this, and we met up, me and him, and we had caught we got something to eat, whatever. It was the whole thing. We just talked a little bit, whatever, blah blah. Blah. And then because he's at the White House, whatever. It was 2016, and then he, and then again, like maybe a year or two later, we met up again in Israel a couple of times. So it's a thing, right? And so I didn't think about it, and I just like, cause you just I mean, so many people, so many people, and so I was thinking, I was like, wait, I know this guy. Like, what do you like? This guy, checked it. And so I go and I realize like he follows all my posts, like everything that I'm posting. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like, and then he asked that question yesterday. I just put up a post about the prostration and the whole thing. And so I'm just like, of course he saw it. He's looking at my post. I'm looking at it. You know what I mean? Like he's looking at my story because you can see who's looking. And this is like, and he's mentioning that in the White House, and it's just like, and then now like it's a concept all over Jewish media that people are talking about. Wait, the building of the third temple, like, could it happen? Could it not happen? Can the White House do all these like? This is like a weird movie. Like I'm like looking at, like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is like real happening. I just had a meeting with a journalist. I don't know, I told you guys about. I had a meeting with a journalist the other day, and they said that it's really important that I really get very aggressive about my dynamic with the Temple Mount. There's going to be a lot of support for me. That I'm hearing these things, and then so it's just saying that like I don't know what's going on, but it's happening, and I'm experiencing. Anyway, thoughts, reflections, pep talk for Shabbos. Any ideas?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. The I think that I really believe that that everything is for a reason. Everybody's busy there right now and talking. I know. And the awesomeness is that there's a lot of things that's going on here in the United States right now. So the world is it has a very open ear right now. And so, the world is really looking, I believe that at a very heightened level right now. And so, you topics going on and being uh, talked about and mentioned and brought up in the midst of the whole world watching, um, and the whole country watching. Okay. And so then on top of that, you have Donald Trump when he comes in and he is speaking in Israel, and he says something. He says, may there be peace in Israel for all eternity. Okay. But then from that aspect, you're going to have this this open ear. And so for him to ask that question uh, in the midst of the environment that's going on here in the United States now, especially with the East Wing of the White House being basically demolished um, to build a ballroom, you know, and I think that this was an appropriate time to just put it on the table as far as in not necessarily that it's that the expectation is for America to initiate that, but from the aspect to put it in the mind of the Jews, to put it in the mind of the world itself, to say, hey, it is a real thing. We are really looking to build another temple. We're really we're expecting, we have a high expectation of this third temple being built. And what that means is that everything that we're talking about, everything that we're reading about is real. And the true essence of it is that when we talk about the power of God, we talk about the light of Hashem coming into this world, then what we're saying is, as Jews, we're saying literally, we take this seriously. And so that's what I got out of the interview. I got out of that moment, just this idea, because throughout history, throughout history, you see that while Israel is in captivity, in a diaspora, that Hashem uses other kings to bring about progression, to bring about progression for the development of Israel and for the regathering of Israel, whether it be rebuilding the wall, whether it be the building of a temple, whether it be just reacclimating itself back into the land, that Hashem does that. He uses that. So this is something that is like in the courtroom of America, and there's so many Jews here that it just so many Jewish lives are here. So that question would have to echo into the ears to prompt Israel, prompt Jews around the world to say, okay, hey, this is being talked about on a world level, on a world scale. It's not just being talked about in our shuls. This is making it is in the ears of the world. Because now I guarantee you there are so many people that were denying that a third temple is going to be built. Some people don't even know about the plans in Ezekiel. They don't know. And so now you're going to have more and more questions about this particular subject matter. So I think this is really good. Toda.
So I think that's the idea. It's just to show that, you know, we're in the era where, you know, just a small group of people could make a tremendous impact spiritually. And and we have to keep pushing it. You know, one of the things I talked about with Zakaria was this idea of putting together a bunch of the, you know, African American, religious Jews, and like him, myself, Sotomayor, other people, and and doing and having a minyan on the Temple Mount, and inviting the media to come out up there with us and witness it. And we're talking about, you know, how big of an impact that would make for everybody, you know, just a visual of that dynamic and that idea. So, you know, just we're building out, and the root of the conversation when we start this dialogue is to understand that there's two realities. There's a reality of people who see the world from everything that they see is, versus people who say that everything that I see is a small insight to a much greater reality and a much greater potential. I mean, a greater potential than what I could imagine by what I'm looking at in the physical, right? And that's it. It starts at that point. And then from there, once we make that division between those two realities, accepting the spiritual reality, then we have to, you know, start to critique the effects of the other reality, right? Which is us, you know, in essence, you know, the idea of just being able to say like how can a person see themselves from the time they're born, or they have, like, you know, conscious recollection? How do they see themselves as being able to achieve anything that God gives to them? Right? They have to see that they're divine, right? They have to see that everything that's about them physical, or even the physical circumstances, is not even the full reality of what's in front of them. And everything that's in front of them is perfect. Everything in front of them is perfect. Like a person, oh man, I grew up in the ghetto. Who said you grew up in the ghetto? Oh, well, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. But who said you needed to have that? You came to this world for a correction. So Hashem put you in the exact environment with the exact amount of means so you could be able to overcome these exact set of challenges. Right? So you're gonna tell me that you grew up in the wrong place? Oh, my parents were like this, my grandparents, this happened to me when I was a kid. You're not saying that like Hashem wasn't there, he wasn't protecting you even through the pain and the suffering that you went through. Hashem wasn't there, he wasn't guiding that, he wasn't using those experiences to build the person to express this specific potential. You know what I'm saying? So these are the real rethinking processes of who we are, right? Because if all I've been my whole life is loved by Hashem, even in the pain, even in the pleasure, then I have to reassess my life. I have to reassess how thankful I am Hashem. When we thank Hashem, what does it mean to thank Hashem? It's like we're doing a favor. Like, yeah, I just want to be thankful. It's a good thing. No, being thankful to Hashem is saying like the whole entire journey that I've been on has been blessed. And the only thing that's made me not believe that my whole life has been blessed is the Nachash, is the serpent. That serpent could be television, that serpent could be media, that serpent could be education system, that serpent could be people in my family. It could be all types of people that came in and try and convinced me that I wasn't living in the perfect reality. Babies get this. You see babies running around, babies are good. They could be in the middle of the desert, running around, dirt all over the place. They're good. Then they get older, and somebody's like, yeah, we're the deprived people. We don't have enough. Yeah, those people over there, they have more. They're better, right? And you live your life this way. This is insane. I live in the perfect reality, whether I have 5 cents in my pocket or 500 million. You know what I'm saying? Or 500 billion. It doesn't matter. It's part of what I'm supposed to be dealing with to see if I could put God on top. Right? Rosh Hashanah, let's not forget, we got to put God as king over everything. So if I make, a $500 million, if I make $3 trillion, $15 trillion, $30 trillion, I have to put God on top of that 15 trillion, right? And so, and so, anyway, so the point is just saying like that's the idea, right? Is to get to a place where we see God's love everywhere and we don't let the serpent, which is the world around us, convince us that we don't live in a perfect reality. Why do you think they got to call people these blacks, whites? They got to offset you. They got to make you like question yourself because we're like in the Garden of Eden, right? You're innocent. And then so something on the outside comes and it tells you that you're not exactly the person that the world needs, that you should be something different, that you're not good enough, that you don't have all the skills and all the abilities. Oh, well, you're not good at that. What is this report card? You can't tell me who I am. You can't gauge me by your systems of observation. Who are you? You're looking at me from a 1%. You're looking at the physical me. You can't see my soul. You can't see how great my soul is. You can't see the lights that are inside of my neshama that make me who you can't see that. So how are you gonna you can't gauge you can't you have no right to tell me who I am. Only God can, and only I can tell myself who I am through my actions. Am I evil or am I righteous? That's the only, and and righteous is following the ways of God, and evil is the way of going away from God. That's it. That's the only thing. Oh, math, reading, science, this, bro. You want me to work? You want me to work for you for the rest of my life? So you trying to make me think, nah, nah. You could keep it. I'm gonna learn because God says I have to have a job and I have to make money and I have to support a family. So I'm going to learn skills that allow me to do that. But those skills and the money that I make from those skills, they don't determine who I am. Because you set it up in a way that I might get less. I was just talking about this earlier. They set up the situation where they're like, they come to the black community, they put drugs in the community. They come to the black community, they put guns in the community. They come to the black community, and they limit educational tools. They come in, they create laws and say if you have a gun or if you have drugs, you go to jail for this amount of time. 3 strikes and you out. You hear that? 3 strikes and you're out. 3 strikes and you're out, meaning you don't, we're going to block you from any ability to build something long term. And we're going to justify it. You did it 3 times. That's it. I don't know where they came up with this rule. But the point is just saying they do that, and then they create an economic situation where they're like, okay, all the businesses in your community, we're going to give loans to foreigners when they come to America, and then we're going to let them go in your community and make money and establish their first generation off of your working wages. So that money's not circulated in your community. This is all happening. We're going to create laws that empower women that don't have families, right? We're going to give financial incentives for women to not have families. At the same time, we're going to put drugs in. At the same time, we're going to create a business model around incarceration. And then the world wants to come to us and say, hey, you know what? Why can't you just get married and have a family? The statistics show, like, get these Ben Shapiro type people. The statistics show if you just get married and you don't break the law and you work, you're going to have a great life. If you don't do that, the statistics say different, and they don't address any of these other things. No, that's not true. They don't put guns in your community. That's not true. Drugs, they don't intentionally put drugs in your, come on, no one would do that. You're going to put drugs in your community and then create legislation that's going to incarcerate you by participating in something that the same institutions put into your community. No, they would never do that. That's ridiculous. That's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory. No, they're trying to kill you. That's basically what you're saying to me. They're trying, yes, yes, it's Gaza. It's Gaza. It's Gaza, right? Southside Chicago is Gaza. Compton's Gaza. Watts, Gaza. Nicholson Garden, Gaza. Oakland, Gaza, right? So just saying that, unless they get gentrified. It's the new thing, gentrification. But hey, man, we're gonna buy all this these cheap properties. We gonna kick everybody out. Anyways, so they're gonna make a fortune. So anyway, so these things have to be worked out because you could live in that system of the people who created a whole education system, science system, entertainment system based around what you see with the physical, right? And we're all programmed by that system, and so you could live in that way. But you will never be able to tap into your potential. Why? Because your potential is connected to the lights that are not seen by the physical. I mean, it's a crazy concept. I can't tap into my potential unless I see the lights within myself that have infinite connections to the endless world. And the fact that my lights were revealed, even on a particular day, is a sign that I have a deliverance to give to the world. I have a redemption to bring to humanity. Right? That's the concept of Mashiach, that everyone wakes up that knowing that they're part of the redemption of humanity. Okay, maybe we have a leader, fine, but the point is just saying that's the ultimate idea. Like all of us are part of that redemption. Anyways, so have a beautiful Shabbat. Any last words? I know I went off a little bit at the end. Any last words before we go? We're good.
No, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Oh, hold on. Yes. Is that 80? All right. So perfect. Nice. Okay. So anyways, Bekitzer, the point is just saying just that connecting to our divine lights, the strength in that on Shabbos. We are divine lights. We are connected to the endless reality. And not just us, all of humanity. All of humanity is connected. They wouldn't exist if they weren't expressions. Israel, our job as Israel is to sanctify those lights, to make them holy, to elevate them to the highest potential. So God says you have to be a light to the nations. What does it mean to a light to nations? Is to show the world that they have light. And how do we show them? By they